Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I recently watched the newest episode of Orville New Horizons, A Tale of Two Topas, and I really enjoyed this one. This whole season has had a little bit of ups and downs, but have overall been incredible sci-fi and just good television in general. And I think some of the best the Orville has ever delivered us. And this one definitely lived up to that hype of the rest of the season, and may be a close second for the best episode in the Orville's entirety. I know there's a lot of controversy that can be derived from this episode, and I wouldn't blame anyone for seeing it and being absorbed by it and not being able to watch it or enjoy it. I have no problems with people in that sense being dismissive of this episode. I can totally see it. Don't blame anyone. It just didn't affect me because, as I've always said, I'm okay with the occasional politics I don't agree with in media as long as the story, characters, and writing comes first. And I definitely felt that way with the episode. The acting and the writing was just so top notch that I got over the controversy. But yeah, don't feel bad if you weren't able to. Totally understandable. It's just a touchy subject at this time, especially what's going on in the world right now and this month, to be fair. So yeah, no problems if you didn't like this episode. I just really liked it, and the character writing was just so on point, and that's what I value most out of any entertainment that I consume is characters first. Characters. And this episode had them aplenty, with several characters doing some incredible things and getting developed so well, even in one-off lines that, weren't all that important to the overall plot, but still needed to be developed, and they did an incredible job with it. I'm going to be getting into brief spoilers, so spoiler alert. Yeah, just pretty much all this episode, it was a character-driven episode. There wasn't anything going on in terms of overall plot, really, or there was no action, and the episode didn't suffer from it. It was very character-driven, and it was excellent at doing that. It excelled at what it was trying to do, and pretty much every character who had a degree of screen time had some development, and I really appreciated that. Even from the opening scene with the whole Indiana Jones references and the tomb raiding, the Egyptian stuff, and the small conversation that Ed and Kelly had about his daughter Anaya on Krill and how he was writing her messages that he knew he couldn't send her, but if she ever did escape or get out of Krill, he could give them to her, and realize that he was always there for her even if he wasn't able to be, truly. And I really appreciated that little moment for both Ed and Kelly, bringing in some continuity from the previous episode. And as I always have to mention, normally this wouldn't be something that was worth mentioning, but with today's day and age, with the lack of consistency, with Star Trek not being about exploration anymore, I always have to mention how consistent this show is in showing that these people are explorers first, and that it's their curiosity that drives them. Beginning of this episode, they are so excited just to explore a new cave, to understand this new lost people that they don't really understand yet, and just explore. And I always appreciate that, even though it's not that important to the overall story of the episode. It's throwaway, but it's consistency throughout the season, and I really appreciate that, and always need to point it out these days. Back in the day, wouldn't seem all that important. In a Star Trek episode back in the day, like in the 90s, if this came out, I wouldn't even mention it because it's so commonplace back then. But now with Star Trek in the state it's in, I have to mention it because it's so foreign to see such good consistency these days. So yeah, the explorer aspect, the Indiana Jones aspect, and then that little scene at the beginning were definitely great. Now, the star of the episode is definitely Topa, who's aged up quite a bit. I don't know how Mocklin, physiology works, how old Topa actually is, but the actress playing Topa in this episode did an incredible job. I know that there's some conflict among some of the audience about, was there a message in it? Was it trying to be preachy? And I think it changed enough variables that it really couldn't be said to be over the top or, in an undue fashion. So I still enjoyed it, even though there might be that conversation. I think the conversation is not as important because it's going back to the actual biology of Topa, that she didn't have consent. And it kind of could be calling out. I doubt it was their intention, but I kind of saw it as, calling out parents who make their kids trending trans just for the attention, which is a pretty common problem in California right now. Just saying, ooh, look at me, I'm so awesome, I have a trans baby. And the baby's just like, what the fuck is going on? It kind of felt like that to me. I doubt that was the intention of the episode. It was probably trying to make a pro-trans statement, but there was enough variety and variables in it that it could have been talking about both sides, so I was totally fine with how it all worked out. And the acting and performances and writing were so good in the episode that even the parts that I didn't agree with necessarily did a great job at portraying everything that I was totally fine with it because it was so well written and so well executed. This may get a little too personal, but I really enjoyed Topas' speech near the beginning of the episode where Topas talking about, I don't belong. Is there something wrong with me? Not the gender dysphoria part of it, but, the idea of a adolescent struggling with that is something that I very much relate to from when I was an adolescent. And, it's another great example of not having to look exactly like a character to relate to them and their story. And I really appreciated that speech. It was very well done, and it was the catalyst for Kelly's decisions throughout the episode, so it needed to be very effective. And it was also the, exposition for Topa and the arc Topa goes on throughout the episode. So it was a very important pivotal scene for everything that was going on with several different characters. So they executed that so well that it became the foundation of the episode and did very well at being that. One of my favorite episodes of the previous 2 seasons was about a girl. So I really liked that they were bringing that back and being a sequel of sorts to that episode and, continuing the conflict without really antagonizing anyone in the current day, present day trans argument. It isn't preaching. It's just trying to have a commentary and make you think. Star Trek is about making you think, not telling you what to think. As one of the co-hosts on the Primordial Lifeform stream that I was on last night said, and this episode definitely fulfilled that style that Star Trek was so known for back in the day. It was about making you think, not telling you what to think. And just overall, the whole trans situation that was going on in this episode, I think was handled very, very well, and have to give it praise for it because, it was a vehicle for some incredible character writing and character moments that I very much enjoyed. Now, one of the hardest scenes to watch was Bortus breaking down and crying to Kelly. That scene was just so emotionally riveting, especially because Bortus has always been the uptight, kind of emotionally cut-off character that we knew what he was thinking a lot of the times, and we knew he was in pain, especially in About a Girl. But I think this is the first time that he's broken down in tears before because he feels so guilty about what he allowed happen to his child. And that whole situation is just heartbreaking. And seeing Bortus breaking down to Kelly when he confesses that he's the one who gave Topa the password to the court files that led Topa to finding out that Topa was born a girl. It was just a very well acted scene by both Kelly and Bortus, and it was just heart-wrenching. And it was also an emotional turning point for several characters, an emotional turning point for the story and plot of the episode. It was just so well executed that you totally saw why all the conflict would go down later on, especially with Clyde, and it was just so beautifully done. The recreation of the courtroom scene was actually some really good CGI. It definitely looked like they were just compositing in Kelly and Topa to the old footage of the courtroom, and it was just flawlessly done. The CGI was just beautiful, no problems with it, and it's so much better than a lot of movies these days, even Marvel movies, and it has to be praised because it's a TV show budget and it does CGI better than a lot of other shows, so I was very, very impressed with that. And of course, there's the character of Clyde. And now, I haven't liked Clyde in a long time, but in a way that it's like, I love to hate him, kind of Umbridge, Harry Potter style. Like, he's very important to the story. I do enjoy when he's on screen, but, I hate him. And so there is a little bit of a bias when it came to him in his episode. It was a very understanding arc that he went through in this one. His motivations were clear and understandable, and I think we're gonna, dip into the realm of hating on him too much, but he does have a point that, both parents should have a say in what's going on with their child's health. I think he loses a lot of those rights because he took away Topa's consent during the initial sex change that happened in About a Girl, but it's still, I think we need to avoid dogpiling on him, even though he's one of those characters that you're supposed to hate. But he was just incredibly well written, well performed, that he was hated like he was meant to be. So there was definitely some very good writing and acting done to portray that in a sense. But we definitely need to avoid dogpiling on him because it wasn't wholly his fault, and he's just, absorbed with this culture, and that's not something to necessarily be ashamed of, or at least for us to judge him too harshly for. So it was just very neatly done, very concisely, and he has a lot of reasons why he would be so hateful of the situation. But he definitely loses all right to redemption in my eyes when he said he wished Topa had never been born. That was just a line too far, and that was the moment where he wasn't necessarily a relatable villain of the episode, but it's still, you still need to understand his perspective despite that heinous line he said to his own child. So those are my thoughts of the episode. I love character written episodes. That's why Electric Sheep is my favorite episode of the Orville across all 3 seasons, and this is probably a very close second to it because of how character driven and so how well written it was. I immensely enjoyed it and look forward to next week and the week after that, and just want the Orville to be renewed so badly. And I just love this universe, this world that Seth MacFarlane has built for us Star Trek fans, us disenfranchised Star Trek fans to enjoy and love. Again, I totally understand if the whole debate around, trans stuff was disconcerting for you and discouraged you from this episode, maybe the Orville in general. I totally get that. It just didn't personally affect me, and I won't judge anyone for being turned off to the show because of it. There's just a lot going on. It's a hot button issue. Probably shouldn't have come out during, Pride Month, but it was just so well written and so well performed that I was able to get over that, and, no problem with anyone who wasn't able to. So overall, I would give this episode another 8 out of 10. It was just so well done. I cannot stress that enough. I love this episode. I love the Orville, and I can't wait to see what the future of this franchise holds. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.